Jennifer.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. I hope that Chief Arnold is not disappointed that I don't go into a full talk about how you landscape, but rather the plants that you use and some of the things that we have done to mitigate fire risk in our own home. And it's a work in progress. But really, Kathy talked to me about the plant list that they put together that looks amazing and asked me to speak about some of the particulars of the plants themselves and how they can help in the landscape and help build habitat for us. So I'm going to just launch right into it. Um, we're going to go over 25 recommended California native plants from the list that Chief Arnold just mentioned. And I'm going to focus on these categories. I like to kind of group things, but look at some of the trees, shrubs, vines, ground cover, and some perennials that really you could shape a very nice garden out of and following a few principles that Chief Arnold talked about, keeping things a little bit 5 feet away from your home itself. And here is a spreadsheet that Kathy actually saved with me. This is on her website. I believe she can let us know if there's any, I believe it's the same list. It's just these are all links that you can click and it shows the source of those where they came from. So some of these came from FireSafe Marin, FireSafe Council of Monterey, and the Western Fire Chiefs. So anyway, that's all on the right column, and you can click through that from Kathy's website. So that's what I'm basing my talk on today. And then again, there's a link on Kathy's site to this really beautiful plant list, and I have a link to her fire section on the Bringing Back the Natives at the end of my talk as well. And also, I'm going to talk a little bit fast, but at the end, there's a QR code. You can just hold up your phone and get all the whole slide deck or use the link to download the whole slide deck that I present today. So I just want to give a little bit of personal background briefly. This was our garden when we moved into our house. It had trees right up against the house, I'd say less than a foot from the house, and shrubs right up against the house. And of course, we have the giant valley oak tree kind of dominating the landscape. But we had a lot of flammable things right up against our house that we decided to move right away. The other thing is in the backyard, we had a lot of ivy, and ivy can serve as a fire ladder, climbing up trees in our creek behind our home, and it can be very flammable. So we tore down the trees, the Japanese maples. We tore out the box hedge. A box hedge can look green on the outside, but the whole interior can be dry and combustible.
Jennifer, I'm
So,
so sorry to interrupt. A number of people in the chat are having trouble seeing your screen right now.
oh no.
Would it be possible for you to unshare and then reshare?
Oh yeah.
Sorry, I think it maybe the issue is that Colin is still sharing his screen, so I am going to gently boot him.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. Sorry, Colin. I promise it is not personal. Zoom is just being a little silly today. So,
Well,
okay,
okay.
let
Is
let's
that
try
better?
that. Um,
NW, can you see it now? I can see it now.
Yeah, I heard from Peggy Kramer, and then I believe it should be fixed. I will pop back in. Yeah, NW, it all works well. Thank
Oh,
you so much,
good.
Jennifer. Sorry for popping in there.
Yeah. I'm gonna, well, now it's not, shoot. There we go. Just very quickly, for anybody who didn't see what my yard looked like before, here's before. Then we tore into it, took out a lot of the combustible materials that were right up against our house. And we just use a pickaxe and the wet weather. If anybody's thinking of tearing things out, do it when it rains. Um, and then we put some hardscaping down. And I know it's a little counterintuitive to all of us who love plants, but we have a hardscape area. This was during COVID. We wanted to be able to visit with neighbors in a safe way. And we also put out some pots, and we didn't even know like that was one of the recommendations of fire safety. But anyway, we have some pots out on our patio as well. And then I just want to kind of jump into the plants themselves. This isn't a talk about how to be a landscaper. It's more about the plants. But there is a very good talk. I have a link at the end of this from Greg Rubin, who's a landscaper in Southern California. And he shows how a little bit of irrigation of the plants that are closest to the house it really helps to prevent fires, and how also placing those, not just irrigating those plants, but native plants retain more water. And many of the types of plants retain more water than plants that are not native that you might just buy at Home Depot. So anyway, we'll go into some of the favorites here. So I start with the Western Redbud because it was actually the first tree we planted in our native garden after we heard Doug Tallamy speak. One of Kathy's events like this, we got very inspired. And I fell in love with this tree when it bloomed, but I fell even deeper in love with it when the leafcutter bees came. And they made little cuts in the leaves and went and built their nests. And I realized that it really was helping the environment to have have this redbud tree here. And it can be a small tree. It takes pruning okay. It has multiple trunks, and it's also visited by other pollinators and hummingbirds. So it's really a joy to have in the garden. I've included sun, water, soil. I won't go into that for each plant, but just be aware that that I pulled all those down from Watershed Nursery, which has great descriptions of many plants on their site. Holly leaf cherry, we're planting a lot of this in our backyard, kind of far from our house, but near a creek. It's evergreen. It can be pruned down to be a shrub. The flowers bloom in early spring. And all of these plants I'm talking about have the qualities that are on Kathy's list of these aren't plants that have needles. These are plants that retain water. They don't have a resinous sap. So they really are great choices for a fire resistant landscape. I just want to add too that in addition to the flowers that attract many pollinators, the leaves of these trees feed 144 different species of butterflies and moths. Those in turn feed baby birds, and the fruit itself feeds the birds. And so there's a big win-win with this particular plant. California buckeye, we have one of these in our backyard as well. And it's one of the qualities that's cited on the Fire Safe Marin is leaning more toward deciduous plants. And so this is a deciduous tree, drops its leaves, has beautiful bark in the dormant season. And then it's one of the first plants to leaf out in early spring. You're probably seeing that happen now. And many of the buds are coming out right now, which are just a butterfly magnet. So especially the swallowtail butterflies in our neighborhood flock to this particular tree. So, and it grows really easily from seed. So Kathy can attest, she has one right in front of her house that Mike planted years ago, and they come up very easily from seed. Mountain mahogany, we're planting some of these along our creek. It's a really beautiful evergreen. It can be pruned to be a screen or a hedge. It can be pruned to grow in a very narrow space. So if some of you are talking about, I don't have a lot of room, maybe at the edge of your property, you could plant these as a screen, and they wouldn't be right up against your house, but they would create that narrow corridor of some privacy. I love the seeds on this as well. They're just beautiful, and it grows really well with other oak woodland types of plants like oak and ceanothus. So it's just a really beautiful tree. And speaking of oaks, I hope people don't shy away from oaks just because they seem big. They have a big canopy. But this is an oak, and it's a coast live oak in my neighborhood, and it's on the recommended list. And this can grow 40 to 100 feet tall, and its roots go very deep and tap the groundwater. And it's green all year round. But if you look at the trunks, it has two trunks here. They're less than the size of one of the chairs at my cafe table. Each one is about the size of a seat like that. It doesn't take up a lot of real estate in this garden, and it's not right up against the house. So it's a really great choice for your garden, and it feeds the most Lepidoptera. 270 species of butterflies and moths can lay eggs on this plant, and ours is alive right now. The birds are getting so many caterpillars out of it. The other one, if you have a little more real estate, the big leaf maple, another deciduous tree that's just glorious in the fall and feeds 87 species of butterflies and moth caterpillars. Its seeds provide food for mammals, and it's fairly fast growing. So it's something if you want to get that instant gratification, again, away from your house, but a nice big tree, or if you're working on a park project, it would be nice there. California coffeeberry is we're going into shrubs now. This particular shrub is actually the plant that's getting eaten the most in my garden. And there's just little holes here and there. It doesn't affect the overall look of the shrub, but it is truly beautiful. And I have Eve Case and Mount San Bruno in my garden, and also one that I've only seen at East Bay Wilds called Mount Vision, which is a very perfect mound. You'll see at the end of the slideshow. And there's all sorts of pollinators that flock to the little tiny flowers, and the hummingbirds visit them as well. So it's called coffeeberry, and the early explorers thought that's what it was, but when they tried consuming it, it's actually a laxative. It is not coffee. So be very careful. Do not eat this plant. Don't make that mistake. Here's another shrub many of you are familiar with, the California lilac. And I just spoke generally here because there are so many different forms of this, from a little flat ground cover to, I think Ray Hartman gets the tallest tree. But it's blooming right now. If you drive around, you see it everywhere. And it's really what a great choice. It's not a resinous plant that burns easily. And so it's one of the ones that's recommended. It also not only feeds pollinators, but the seed capsules are eaten by birds and mammals. So it's a really great choice for the garden. Another one, it doesn't feed a lot of species, 24 species of butterflies and moths, but it's really a gorgeous deciduous plant, this Western azalea. It's a little bit rare, so you kind of have to do the treasure hunt at the different nurseries to find it. But the pipevine swallowtail butterfly actually nectars. It's a favorite nectar plant, and we're growing this near our pipevine so that maybe we'll attract some butterflies and they'll lay the eggs on the pipevine when they are attracted to the nectar. Um, the California buckwheat, which is the white one in the lower left. I featured that one just because it is I believe, the most ubiquitous. But it's a gorgeous plant, grows in a nice mound, comes in many colors and forms. And there's a red flowered buckwheat here. There's also a sulfur buckwheat. I actually took this picture myself on the Bringing Back the Natives garden tour 2 years ago. So it's definitely, the habitat creation is definitely working. And they don't require a lot of water, but they do retain water and are less flammable than plants that are more resinous. Um, Kinnikinnick is a type of Arctostaphylos, a type of manzanita that is a ground cover, and is the one thing that they recommend for fire safe gardening is in the area near your house, that 5 feet out zone beyond your house. Low growing plants are less likely to shoot up embers or cause problems. And so this is a nice one to grow in that area outside of that hardscape. And it's really beautiful. The pollinators love the flowers. 68 species of butterflies and moths can lay eggs on the plant and raise the next generation. And then lots of different animals love the little manzanita is little apple in Spanish, and that's what the berries look like. It's an important habitat food. I saw actually this plant also on the Bringing Back the Natives garden tour, the creeping snowberry. And it's winter deciduous. The berries are fine for wildlife, but poisonous to humans. So don't be tempted to eat them. And they work really well in dry shade under oaks. And they have deep roots that, if you have an erosion problem, can help with that. Woodland and beach strawberry. I love strawberries so much in our garden. A friend gave me some runners and I planted them and they just took off in a nice way. They aren't invasive, but the woodland strawberry is typically grown in shade and has lighter green leaves. They're a little bit deeper lobed than the other beach strawberry. Funny thing though, the beach strawberry is what the friend gave me, and I planted it in my oak woodland dappled shade area, and it's doing fine. So even the beach strawberry is very forgiving of whether it's in sun or shade. They both do really well. The silver lupin is a perennial shrub. You can grow it pretty easily from seed, and it has a really long bloom period. So it's a really great plant for attracting pollinators over a long period of time. And it hosts several different species of butterfly, but it includes the endangered mission blue butterfly. I don't know if you have that in the East Bay, but I know that we have that over here on the peninsula. And so it's one that we want to grow a lot of here. And it's a full sun perennial. Seaside daisy, again, it only feeds 11 species of butterfly and moths, but I like to include it because it has a very long bloom period, and a lot of people really like to see that in their garden, and it's kind of a neighbor pleaser as well. So the Gabb's checker spot butterfly is one of the ones that uses this as a host plant, as a caterpillar. It eats this plant. You don't really notice any damage from that. If you live along the coast, it does really well. But inland, you could maybe give it a little bit of shade to keep it from burning, maybe. California aster, we're growing these in our garden, and it's a beautiful long blooming plant in the late fall. It's a monarch favorite. And so I really love to have this and goldenrod growing in our garden, and to provide seeds for the birds and nectar for the monarchs. And hopefully they'll lay eggs on our milkweed. Douglas iris actually doesn't feed a lot of it. It's a habitat plant in so much as some pollinators use it, but it is a nice evergreen plant that has a low burn odds. And it's really something that, again, you can plant around in your garden and add a little long blooming color, and keep a native garden looking nice at different times of the year with year-round bloom. It's also really easy to divide and share with friends. California fuchsia, Epilobium canum, is a really versatile plant. There's actually a low version of California fuchsia that grows as a ground cover. So again, if you're within that area closer to your home, maybe a lower plant would be desirable. And the hummingbirds just flock to this. And so, in fact, we originally planted just one, and the hummingbird came and looked me right in the eye and said, "Plant more." So now we have 5 of these in front of our house, and it has a long bloom period, August at our house until December. We prune it down to the ground, and then it rebounds the next year. Hedge nettle is one that I do have growing. I realize too close to my house, but it retains a lot of water, and it's near where my hose is, and so it gets extra water when I'm watering the garden. It's very delicate looking and feeds 11 species of moths and caterpillars. It's not moths and butterflies. It's not considered a keystone species, but I do see a lot of activity on it in our home garden. Getting into ground covers, yerba buena is a great evergreen, holds a lot of moisture ground cover. It's related to mint. Actually, you can make a refreshing tea out of this plant. And it really is easy to, it spreads a little bit, and it's really easy to get it to cover a lot of ground in the shade. It really likes shade in the garden. Common yarrow is another ground cover that's really a beautiful plant, semi-evergreen, sends up tall stalks of white flowers that attract a lot of different pollinators. And then the leaves make a really nice sort of carpet if you allow it to spread and give it a little extra irrigation. Pink honeysuckle is one that I realized during the last talk I do have growing on a trellis on my house, and I'm going to actually move that. So we don't want things growing on our house, but this one is really popular with the hummingbirds, and with the birds. They eat the fruit when it finally, when the bloom is done. So it's really nice in a shady, dry shade, maybe in an oak woodland situation. Dutchman's pipe is another one. We have that growing along our fence. And it has really unusual flowers that come out before the leaves. It's the sole larval food of the pipevine swallowtail butterfly. So I know that you have a lot of those in the East Bay. It's really essential to grow this to keep the populations expanding. And then in addition to the plants, I just want to share a little bit of garden inspiration. You know, when I've gone on the tour, I've seen things that really tied in with the kind of hardscaping conversations we've been having. It can be attractive. You can have plants like this sea monkey flower growing next to a beautiful fountain. This was designed by Kelly Marshall, and there's stones all around that. And then there is a little bit of mulch, but one thing I read is break up the mulch with some hardscaping and some inorganic mulch, and that can help prevent the fire from spreading. Here's another example from the Bringing Back the Natives garden tour. I saw this beautiful swale with buckwheat, which is on the plant list as well. And it's beautifully designed. again, creates that sort of break where the fire might be spreading. It's not a huge defensible space, but it does break up the chances of things combusting. And then this is my own little cafe area near our front window. We do have coffee berry growing within 5 feet of our house, so we might have to look into that. But this also, the hardscaping does break up the movement of fire, and also the things that we've planted are all serendipitously on the list that Kathy provided. We didn't know that list before we planted this, so I was relieved to see they were included there. And then this is our front yard now, so it doesn't look quite so hardscapey now that a lot of these plants have come in. There's still less vegetation up toward the house, plants in pots near the house that could be moved, and so much habitat's been created there. There's food for hundreds of different species, birds, bees, butterflies, hummingbirds. Here are some of the creatures that are using our garden. We finally have bluebirds in our neighborhood we did not have before. Leaf cutter bees using our red bud. Hummingbirds, which 80% of their diet's insects. Anyway, it's a very active and vibrant community that was only just dead lawn and box hedge before, and more fire safe than it was before. So I've included some links. I know that you've seen them in the chat to Kathy's site, the Bringing Back the Natives Garden Tour fire sources. I also saw a really interesting video with Greg Rubin, who is a landscaper in Southern California. The CNPS video using natives for fire resilient landscapes. So those are hopefully some other additional things. And my grandson Charlie took this picture of this very happy pipevine caterpillar eating the Dutchman's pipe. Here's way too many resources. I won't read them all to you, but if there's books or sites or garden tours that you're looking for, I put that there. And I end with this Mount Vision coffee berry that Pete Bayou has over at East Bay Wilds. I'm growing 5 of them in my garden. And I have a QR code for this slide deck. So if there are plants you wanted to go back and look at or think about, you can just hold your phone up to that QR code and download. Or I know that this will be posted at some point, so you'll have a chance to look at that. But that's a really quick run through of the plants. And again, if you want more about landscape theory and approach, that Greg Rubin presentation that I had as a link, I would visit that.
So I want to say thank you, Jennifer. That was a fabulous presentation. And I'm sorry that I got a little confused when you started and I failed to introduce you. I just hopped on, I turned it over. So I'm just going to back up and say that this is my friend, dear friend and colleague, Jennifer Dirking. And Jennifer is the brain and brawn behind those amazing Keystone species signs that you may have seen on the garden tour or on the tour's website. She designed them and did such a beautiful job. She's the founder of the Wildflower Ambassadors, a group that's given out thousands of packets of free native plant seeds over the last few years. You might have heard her speak before. She's an engaging speaker and has had a wide variety of talks. And also, if you want to see Jennifer's garden, she lives in San Carlos, and your garden is open on the Growing Native Garden Tour next weekend. Is it Sunday the 13th?
I cannot believe I did not plug that. Yes, Sunday the 13th, you just sign up at gnt.org and it's free. And I can tell everybody here, because we're among friends, we're doing a little pizza party at the end of the day. So the tour ends at 4. So somewhere between 4 and 4:30, anybody who shows up is going to get pizza. We'll just order for however many people are there. So anyway, but yeah, it's been a real joy to work with Kathy. I've learned so much going on your tour, actually more than I've been able to go on the tour over here. And it's been such a journey learning about the plants and seeing the life. I mean, there's so much life in our garden right now. It's amazing. So yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Well, Jennifer and Brian have a beautiful garden, I know, because I've seen it, and such a productive garden. They've got a number of birds nesting in their trees. The Watershed Nursery is an employee-owned cooperative located in Point Richmond that has been providing quality native plants and services to home gardeners and to local Northern California restoration projects since 2001. The mission of the Watershed Nursery is to help make your home garden beautiful and ecologically valuable, and to provide exceptional native plants and services for habitat enhancement projects. The Watershed Nursery carries plants for various light, water, and soil conditions. Don't hesitate to ask their friendly staff for help with choosing plants. While visiting the nursery, be sure and check out their beautiful demonstration gardens. The Watershed Nursery is open Tuesday through Sunday from 10 to 4. You can shop in person, or you can place an order in advance for curbside pickup. If you're looking for a practical gift for a friend, consider purchasing a gift certificate. You can reach the Watershed Nursery at watershednursery.com or call them at 510-234-2222.